anything? Songbook, harmonium, you want me to play? You want to sing something? Nothing.
Hare Krishna. So first of all, we want to thank all of the wonderful Bahrain devotees. They have kept us here so lovingly and so sweetly. We hardly felt a separation from Braj. We were treated so sweetly and nicely here. So we want to thank all of you. And now we're all gathered here for the 128th Vyas Puja ceremony of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So this is the most glorious occasion. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharani Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschati Desatarani Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I think I have to move it. Yeah, this way. No, move the. Oh. Yeah, that's the one. Hare Krishna. So the birth anniversary of the spiritual master we celebrate as Vyas Puja. Because the spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master, he's a representative of Vyas. Vyas has written all the Vedic literatures. And after finally compiling Vedanta Sutra, still he wasn't satisfied. Then his spiritual master Narad Muni appeared and told him that you've glorified so many things, but you haven't emphasized pure devotion to Lord Krishna, which is the real goal of life for all human beings, all living entities, not just human beings, but all of every living being. So he wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. So the spiritual master and the Shastra, they're like two lines of a railway line. You know, we have two lines. And they have to go parallel. If one goes this way, one goes that way, then our train will derail. Just like seems like every week in India where some train is derailing. So they have to go side by side. So the spiritual master is representative of Vyasadeva. So we call the holy appearance day as Vyas Puja. And we can't imagine the difficulties and so many obstacles that Prabhupada faced to establish his Krishna Consciousness movement. Finally, at the age of 70, now we're 5 past that, And we can't imagine. Prabhupada went on a cargo ship. And now we go flying around on 777s and A320s. Wherever we go, devotees are there to greet us. Sometimes even kirtan parties are at the airport to greet us. And they give us a nice place to stay and so many things. A nice prasadam. Prabhupada didn't know. He brought his cereal with him. He said maybe he won't find cereal. Of course, grains is a very common thing in the West, but he didn't know. So he had a little stock of dry cereal. He thought he'd maybe have to live on that. He didn't know what to expect. He could have stayed in India. He could have stayed in Vrindavan. To leave Vrindavan every time, that's the worst part of Vrindavan is leaving. That's the absolute worst part of Vrindavan. We can't imagine Prabhupada left without knowing what was coming. When I was a very young devotee, I joined in a place called Boulder, Colorado, in the Rocky Mountains in the United States. So we were at the foot of the mountains, so it was, in the wintertime it became very cold. And it was practically impossible. We had those days we didn't have money. Now we're eating kaju and kishmish like anything, but those days there was no money. So they couldn't buy any warm clothes. And I was happy. I was sitting and reading those old Srimad Bhagavatams with all the misprints and misspellings and typos and everything. It was so wonderful. I was perfectly happy. But the devotees were worried that I would fall into Maya. So Prabhupada wanted at that time, his Los Angeles temple to be the training center. So they sent me to LA to get trained up. And one of the first devotees I met was one devotee from who joined when Prabhupada was at 26 Second Avenue. Very, very old devotee. His name is Mahapurush. I don't know where he is now. But anyway, he told me a very interesting story. Because he would go to the classes. Prabhupada was giving classes. Now we have Bhagavad Gita class all over the world, 7 days a week. But those times it was just Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And everyone knew during the weekdays that if you wanted some free food, because we had all dropped out, we were hippies and so many things, we didn't have so much money. So free food, that was a great selling point for Krishna Consciousness, especially the Sunday feast, oh my goodness. So everyone knew that at 26 Second Avenue there was an apartment behind, upstairs, that you could go there at noon and you get these, this far out, flat Indian breads called chapatis, and there was a spicy soup called dal, and some spicy vegetable preparation called sabji, and sweet rice sometimes. So he was in the habit of sometimes going there around noontime, and Prabhupada would have the devotees serve out and everything. So one time he came, and somehow or other it was so nice because Prabhupada was sitting there. All the boys and girls, they were taking prasad, and Prabhupada was sitting there and telling the servers how to serve out and everything. And it was just so nice sitting there with Swamiji. So he finished eating, but he didn't leave. He just thought it was so nice. When everyone was gone, he looked around. He realized there's only 2 people here. And these type of people, no cleanliness training whatsoever. They just took their plates, threw it in the sink, didn't even bother to wash their hands and leave. And he looked, he saw these dirty plates in the sink. all these dirty pots and pans. He said, and he thought, well, every day somehow these pots and pans and all these plates get clean. Because Swamiji has to cook. All these pots get cleaned, all the plates are clean. He said, I'm not here. There's only one other person in this room who could be doing it. And he thought, wow, maybe I should help him. And he got up and he started picking up the pots and pans, and Prabhupada smiled and said, I was just praying to Krishna to please send someone to please kindly help me. I was just praying to Krishna to please send someone to kindly help me. This is the unbelievable compassion unparalleled compassion of Srila Prabhupada. He could have stayed in Vrindavan, he could have stayed in any Gaudiya Math. They loved Prabhupada's preaching, they loved his bhajans. Even George Harrison said, I've never heard a voice like Srila Prabhupada's. He was a musician, he said, I never heard a voice like that. And what to speak of cooking, we'd have people cooking for him, doing his laundry, doing everything, cleaning up. But Prabhupada was cleaning, he was washing the dishes, cleaning these pots and cooking. For these type of people, you don't want to know what we were before we became devotees. Yamaraj has one assistant named Chitragupta. So you all know Chitra means picture, right? And Gupta means secret. You think, well, nobody saw that. Chitragupta Kashu, huh? Well, nobody saw that one. Chitragupta caught that one too. We crashed his hard drive trying to keep track of our simple activity. This is the type of people Prabhupada was cooking for and cleaning up after. We can't imagine Prabhupada's compassion. He had faith that somehow or other if they will chant the holy name and if they will take prasadam, they'll become purified. Now if this type of person would come to our Sunday feast, we give him a plate of prasad. You go around back somewhere, nobody sees you. But Prabhupada was cooking and cleaning up for these type of people. Nobody has understood the meaning of Trinadapi Sunichena Taroriva Sahishnana Amanina Manadina Kirtaniya Sadahari, like Srila Prabhupada. He could have stayed in Vrindavan and had somebody cooking for him, somebody cleaning for him. No problem whatsoever, but he took this trouble to spread Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement to the Western world. We can't imagine the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. It's just inconceivable. And I was thinking today of one wonderful pastime, because today's Vyas Puja, so I was thinking about different things, experiences with Srila Prabhupada. So in 1974, it was the first really organized Mayapur Vrindavan. We used to call it the Mayapur Vrindavan Festival. Now it's just become Mayapur Festival, and Kartik has become the Vrindavan Festival. So we would go 2 weeks to Mayapur and 2 weeks to Vrindavan. So, in those days it wasn't so nicely organized. We didn't have devotees to cook or nice ingredients. Our poor Western bodies weren't used to this buffalo ghee. We were all so sick. It was just somehow or other, I don't know how we survived. And those days there wasn't this Delhi, New York hop. We had to go from, when we were coming, we would go New York to London, London to Paris, Paris to Rome, Rome to Athens, Athens to Tehran, Tehran to Bombay, and Bombay to Calcutta. That's how we had used to come in 1974. So I was totally wiped out and sick, and I couldn't dream about going back, from Delhi to Tehran, Tehran to Athens, Athens to Rome. Oh my God. I couldn't think about it. And just at that time, the municipality in Bombay decided that our kirtan on our property was a public, no, the police the police commissioner said it's a public nuisance, and they were refusing to give us a permit to build on Hare Krishna land. So Prabhupada wanted a kirtan protest. So one very wonderful devotee, Vishnujan Swami Maharaj, who used to sing so beautifully, even Prabhupada said, "You take me straight to Golok with your singing." He was coming, I was standing in line for the flight, and Prabhupada wanted some devotees to stay back and join the Sankirtan protest. So I didn't relish the idea of sitting on a plane and following what I just said. So I immediately said, yes, well, I'll go to Bombay and take part in this protest. And that was 1974, and like I said, we didn't have money. Whichever class we were in, I remember there was no cushion on the seat. It was all wood. I don't know if it was, all the trains were like that in 74, I don't know. But the train we went on, we were reserved, but anyway, it was, and it took so long. So we joined the Sankirtan protest. And that time, there wasn't a nice Juhu temple like there is now. They just had a little chatai shack in the Gandhi Park, and we wouldn't even sleep there. We would stay there. We would keep our stuff there, but sleeping. They had a little temporary temple by the now where the gates where they have a Kaliya Krishna diorama. There they had a little temporary temple, and it had a darshan mandap, and there was just a little tin roof and some fans, because there was millions and millions of mosquitoes. So we would sleep there, and then in the daytime, there were in the evening, Prabhupada would have a big pandal program there, and every morning Prabhupada would go for his morning walk. So I can remember going on that morning walk with Srila Prabhupada, and he would walk down to the beach. On the way, if you've read Leelamrit, then you've heard the name Dr. Patel. Dr. Patel would meet Prabhupada with his friends, and then they'd walk on Juhu Beach. And Dr. Patel, he would argue all this Mayavad arguments with Srila Prabhupada. And I remember Prabhupada, he was so lively in his arguments. He said that, Dr. Patel, you can say it is all one. It is all atoms. It is all one. But we're walking on the land, not in the sea or in the air. It's all atoms, but still we are walking on the land, not in the sea or not in the air. And then he would present some other argument, and Prabhupada would go on and he'd present another argument. He said, even a child can understand. So your intelligence is less than a child. And finally, Prabhupada gave one argument. He said, just like in the body, there's so many holes in the body. You can say they're all holes, it is all one. Still, we put the food here, not here. So those morning walks were very memorable. Then Prabhupada would do his program there in the temporary temple, and I always managed to be right beside Vyasa-san when Prabhupada would distribute prasad. He had such a wonderful, kind look on his face as they bring all the Mahaprasad, he would go like that, and then he would give, everybody would come, and Prabhupada had this wonderful look, compassionate look on his face. I just couldn't get away from that look. I just stood there beside the Vyasa watching Prabhupada very compassionately distributing Mahaprasad to everybody. In 1975, that was the opening of Krishna Balaram temple. And we know that it opened on Ram Nomi. So from Gaur Purnima to Ram Nomi was a long time. So they extended the festival. We went from Mayapur, we went to Hyderabad. And we had a big Pandal program in Hyderabad. Then we went to Delhi. There was another Pandal program in Ramlila Maidan. And then we went to, we went to Modi Nagar. We had program there. And then Aligarh, we had a program at Tiger Lux, whoever that gentleman, I can't remember his name. And then we came to Vrindavan. So, I forgot what it is. Oh, so we went to Hyderabad. In those days, we didn't have any money. There was a hotel that was under construction. So we all stayed there in the cement dust. And every day we would go to huge Pandal program. We were astounded. So many thousands of people would come to hear Prabhupada speak. And Prabhupada had one microphone at the edge of the stage so that people could ask their questions. In the beginning it was like that. But what would happen, somehow people from Hyderabad, it seems like they like to listen to themselves speak. So they would come up, Swamiji, I want to ask you this question because this question is very important for humanity at large and you can give the proper answer to this question. So this is a very important question that I want to ask. They go on and on like that. What is your question? This Swamiji, you have to do the duty. Bhagavad Gita says you have to do the duty. Prabhupada said that is monkey's duty. Krishna says, Sarvadaram Pritaja, Mahamikam Saranam Braja. That's all. You just surrender to Krishna. Oh, those were so wonderful days. I remember, and I didn't want to go by train again from Hyderabad up to Delhi. So somehow or other I went to the airport and bought a ticket. And I didn't realize it, but I got a ticket on the same plane that Prabhupada was on. So my wife and I, we got on the plane, and Prabhupada was sitting right up front by the door where you came in, and Prabhupada was so surprised that some other devotees were on the flight, besides him and his servants, And Prabhupada just, we did our pranams and we came on the plane, and Prabhupada was so surprised to see us. That was one of the safest flights I've ever flown on. I knew there was no problem with that flight. Prabhupada, Krishna's pure devotee, was there. Then we finally came to Vrindavan. So those were wonderful times in Prabhupada's association. I can remember another interaction I had. I wasn't so lucky like other devotees have so much interaction. But I remember one interaction I had with Srila Prabhupada was, I was in LA temple getting trained up, and Prabhupada came. And I'd always managed to be right in front of Prabhupada's Vyasa when he would give the lecture, Bhagavatam class. So one day I was sitting there right in front of Prabhupada's Vyasa practically, and Prabhupada pointed at me like this. And I looked, I thought maybe my dhoti was open or something. And I looked around, I couldn't see anything. And I sat up like this, and Prabhupada put his head like that. So I froze in this position, like a yogi. And then Prabhupada was lecturing, and especially for us Westerners, it was very difficult. Now that difficulty has come back again due to old age, for us to sit cross-legged. So I was moving my leg like this, You've probably seen devotees do that. They're chanting and going like this. All of a sudden, Prabhupada stopped his lecture. He looked straight at me and said, "Don't do that." Then I realized what Prabhupada was pointing at. So, many of you are thinking that us who are trying to be Prabhupada's disciples, because Prabhupada was a bona fide spiritual master, we're still trying to become bona fide disciple. We were so fortunate to have Prabhupada's association. And some of you are thinking that you're not so fortunate like that. You didn't get Prabhupada's association. But you shouldn't think like that. Because there's one story, you'll never find it in the memories, tapes, or anywhere. Because that devotee is no longer in this world. But there was a wonderful devotee named Kartikeya, who was a very dear servant of Srila Prabhupada. He was cooking for him and taking care of Prabhupada wherever he went. And he was very, very kind-hearted and very simple and emotional type of fellow. So this is way back, 69, maybe 60, it was a long time before. Still, that time they didn't call Prabhupada Prabhupada, they called him just Swamiji. So Govindadasi and Gaur Sundar took Prabhupada to Hawaii. And so one day Govindadasi, who's my dear god sister, who's very famous for introducing Tulsi worship into ISKCON and taking care of Tulsi. So she came from the market and she brought something in the West we call wheat germ. It's, wheat product. There's inside the kernel, if you break it open, you'll see a little thing there that turns into a root, and there's two little, almost leaves you can see, two little things. So that's the part that germinates, so they call it wheat germ. And they make a very, very healthy preparation out of that called wheat germ. So Govindadasi brought this back from the market one day, and Kartikeya thought, well, next time Swamiji asks for halava, I'm going to make it with the wheat germ instead of with the suji. And Swamiji will be so pleased. So one day, it rained. So when it rains, it's a little bit cold. So when it's cold, Prabhupada liked halava. It's full of ghee and grains, keeps you nice and warm, So he told Kartikeya to make some halava. And Kartikeya was so happy. So, I'm going to make it with the wheat germ instead of the suji. And he went into the kitchen, and that was his whole bhav. Swamiji is going to be so pleased. He's really going to like this. He's going to be so pleased. He cooked it. He offered to the deities. He put it in a bowl. He brought it into Prabhupada's room. And Prabhupada took one look. And he said, halava means suji. What is this? And with his left hand, he said, take it away. Halava means suji, take it away. So Kartikeya, he was a very sentimental fellow, very soft-hearted. He was just destroyed. His whole bhav was, Swamiji is going to like this so much. And Prabhupada's upset. And with left hand said, take it out. So he didn't know what to do. So he went in the temple room and he sat in front of the picture of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. And began to pray that I was just trying to please your spiritual son. And he's become upset with me. I don't know what to do. And he was crying because he was very sentimental devotee. He was crying. Suddenly he heard Prabhupada's voice. Kartikeya? Kartikeya? He ran to Prabhupada's room. Prabhupada said, bring that halava. So he brought in the bowl of halava. With great gusto, Prabhupada ate the whole bowl of halava. Said, bring some more. In this way, Prabhupada finished off the whole pot of halava. So Kartikeya said he learned two things from this. One is that he was praying to the picture of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. He said, Prabhupada is not alone. There's a whole train of spiritual masters all the way up to Krishna. And they're offering us this rope to pull us out of this deep, dark well of material existence. Whole chain of spiritual masters behind Prabhupada. And second thing, Prabhupada always told us that the grandfather is more merciful than the father. I have experience in my own life. My grandfather had nowadays we would call it a convenience store, like a 7-Eleven or something, but this is old days. He had a store like that, so there's different things. So we would go up back east, because I was born in California, so we go to the East Coast and visit sometimes. And on one side of the store was all the chocolates. So me and my brothers and sisters, we always went that side. But my father, who had to pay for all our dental bills, he would always say, no, 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 no. But Grandpa, behind his back, he would always give us some candy. So the grandfather, he's more merciful than the father. So you shouldn't think that you're not fortunate. You're more fortunate than us, because you have Prabhupada as your grandfather's spiritual master. He'll be more merciful to you than to us. And I see all these second-generation devotees doing so many wonderful services, spreading Krishna consciousness so wonderfully. It's all special mercy. Prabhupada is going to give more mercy. You have Prabhupada as your Don't think that you're unfortunate. You're more fortunate. Prabhupada will be more merciful to you than to us. And I can remember after I got trained up, then they sent me back to Boulder. And I remember the first Gaur Purnima festival came. That was before we went to Mayapur and Vrindavan. And it snowed. That was because Colorado, Boulder is very high in the foot of the mountains, so it snowed. I can remember snow coming down for that first Lord Chaitanya's appearance, Gaur Purnima. So, now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, so anyway, so eventually they sent me back to LA to get initiated. The word came that Prabhupada's in LA, and even though I hadn't been for 6 months, still they recommended me somehow or another. So I went to LA to get initiated. That's when I met Mahapurush, who told me this wonderful story about Prabhupada cooking for everyone. So that was not in the Watseka temple that we have now, the wonderful temple we had. This is an old temple on La Cienega Boulevard. And it was one of the last initiation ceremonies where Prabhupada did everything himself. Later Prabhupada would sit and somebody would do the fire yajna, somebody would do, he would chant on the beads in his room, and then they would drape them on the microphone and he would just hand them out. But this was one of the last initiation ceremonies. Prabhupada took our beads from our hands and chanted on the beads. So there was about 10 of us. We thought that was a big initiation, 10 people getting, now, sometimes initiation is 200 people. Well, we thought it was a big, 10 people were getting initiated. So, and in those days, it wasn't that you went to the temple store and bought some nice japa beads from Loi Bazaar, Tulsi japa beads. We would go to a place called Tandy Leather Company. Why leather company? Because the hippies, they used to string wooden beads on the little strips of leather. So we would buy the beads, nice wooden beads from Tandy Leather Company, and we'd buy some nylon string, we'd tie it on the doorknob and stretch it all the way across the room. You'll be surprised when you tie 108 knots, that string just disappears. You had to go all the way across. and you had to take that one bead and then Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Ram. You tie a knot. And 108 times you had to make your own japa beads. Now, the person who made me a devotee, he was Bhavananda. He was a very flashy character. So he got some very nice, beautiful white, very light-colored beads, wooden beads. And I made my japa mala. So I handed that japa mala to Prabhupada, and he chanted, and I watched exactly how he chanted. And they were so light-colored, looked like a string of pearls in Prabhupada's hands. He held them just like this. And he would chant just like this, on the tips of the thumb and the finger, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Then he'd roll it like this, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Just like that he was chanting. Yeah? I still do that because I find it's very helpful, because sometimes we get sloppy. Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, So we do it like this, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. It's very good for concentration. So then Prabhupada, 10 of us were getting, had to chant everybody's rounds right in front of us. And then I knew you don't dare reach for the beads with your left hand, so I reached for my beads with the right hand, and Prabhupada looked at me. He said, so what are the, how many rounds? I said, 16, Prabhupada. And he said, and what are the 4 rules and regulations? I said, no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex life. And then my mind went blank. And then I was so nervous in front of my spiritual master, I can't remember the last regulative principle, I'm sitting there. Some brahmachari behind me said, no drugs, no drugs. And I said, no intoxication. And Prabhupada was sitting there holding the beads, and he said, yes, no LSD. And then Prabhupada laughed at his own joke. It was so cute, Prabhupada laughing at his own joke, because he knew where I was at. He said, yes, no LSD. So then he handed me the beads, and luckily I remembered to reach for the right hand. And he said, and so your name is Dina Bandhu. Dina Bandhu means friend of the humble. And I guess they had a look on my face, funny look, because I had spaced out on one of the regulative principles. I must have still had a funny look on my face, because Prabhupada looked at me. He said, it is all right? Oh, yes, Swamiji. Oh, yes, Prabhupada. It's all right. So then Prabhupada, he threw the colors on the fire jagya, and he set it up, and he did the fire jagya. Or probably there was a lecture first. That's right, he gave lecture first. And I don't remember anything from the lecture except the very end. Prabhupada said, there's a small Bengali verse that, what is that? Suchi hoy muchi hoy yadi Krishna tyaje. Muchi hoy suchi hoy yadi Krishna bhaje. He said there are 2 things. Suchi means clean, Brahman. Brahmana means clean, highest up. And muchi means the dealer in skin, the cobbler, lowest down. So even if one is Suchi, Brahman, highest up, Yadi Krishna Tyaji. He has given up Krishna consciousness, or he has no Krishna consciousness, he immediately becomes Muchi. And even if one is Muchi, lowest down, Yadi Krishna Bhaji. If he has taken up Krishna consciousness, then he immediately becomes Suchi, the highest. So take advantage of this small Bengali verse, take up this Krishna consciousness, and make your life perfect. That was the way that ending I always remember. I remember that verse. So then Prabhupada did the fire sacrifice, and then there was a stage, and on the stage there was a Vyasa-san. This was the first real Vyasa. In 22nd Avenue, they just took those plastic milk crates and turned them upside down and put some old rug on top of it and a pillow in the back, and that was Prabhupada's Vyasa. But I had a wonderful godbrother. Now I just put his ashes in the Jamuna about a year ago, named Narayan. And he went around and looked at all the Indian prints, and he figured out how to make a beautiful Vyasa-san. He made this incredible Vyasa-san, and we got one of those umbrellas that they use for marriages and things, and put it over top. And when I wasn't there, but the devotees told me, when Prabhupada saw this Vyasa-san, he began to cry. He said, I'm not worthy to sit here. Only on behalf of my spiritual master I can sit here. So there was Vyasa-san, then there was a big picture of Panchatattva, and a big shelf above Panchatattva was Jagannath, and then there was a little altar, and we had little deities of Radha and Krishna, about this big. The big Rukmini Dwarkadish were not there, just little Radha Krishna was there. So Prabhupada got up on the Vyasa-san and he started kirtan. And so I was there right in front, jumping up and down. Now in those days it wasn't that you went to the temple store and bought a nice cotton dhoti from Loi Bazaar. We used to go to J.C. Penney's or Woolworths and get 65% nylon, 35% dacron, something like that. Probably the other way, 65 dacron, 35 nylon, peach-colored cloth. And Bhavananda, as I said, was the one who made me. So he got this very shiny cloth, very silky and very slippery cloth. Very shiny cloth. So I was jumping up and down, and all of a sudden I could feel my dhoti was slipping. So I just grabbed like this and was jumping up and down in front of Prabhupada. And then after the kirtan, we all went in the prasadam room, and there was a little room on the side of the temple room where Prabhupada would take his prasadam. We went to there was a prasad hall. We all sat down in prasad hall. And then suddenly somebody announced Prabhupada's leaving. So there was a little pathway. In the Leelamrit, you may have read about the 108 rose bushes. On either side of this, there was lawn and there was these rose bushes, So we all knelt on the side of that little path, like little puppy dogs, We wanted, Prabhupada would come, and he would take his bead bag, and he would hit somebody on the head on that side, hit someone on the head on that side. But since he's moving forward, he hit someone here, hit someone there, but he'd miss one on this side and hit somebody there. So Prabhupada came, and on my head I got Prabhupada's bead bag like that. And then my poor dear godbrother Jayatirtha, somehow Prabhupada missed him. So he ran down, he got back in line, and again Prabhupada missed him. He was crying after Prabhupada left. We watched Prabhupada's car go until we couldn't see it anymore. But I remember that Prabhupada used to hit us on the head like that with his bead bag when he would leave, when he left.
One time you touched your hair and Prabhupada's feet.
Oh, one time. One time I was sitting right beside the Vyasa-san when Prabhupada was giving the class. So after the class, he got down from Vyasa-san, and then he would pay his obeisances to the deities. So I was right there, and I looked up, and I saw right in front of my head those two lotus feet. So immediately, I just pushed my head up and into Prabhupada's lotus feet. This is the old Laseniga temple. No, that was in the new temple, but in the old temple room. Because after my initiation, very soon they moved to the new temple on Vatseka, and where the what do they call that? Fate Museum is. That used to be the temple room. So in that old temple room, there was a back door where Prabhupada would walk. Prabhupada's rooms were upstairs, because in La Cienega there was no place for Prabhupada to stay. That's why he would come out, get in a car, and go and come back the next day. So, but in LA he had his room upstairs. So he'd come down, he'd come through that door, come down, offers obeisances to Gaur-Nitai. Then there was a pillar with Charnamrit. He would take some Charnamrit, then he offered obeisance to little Radha and Krishna, then he offers obeisance to Jagannath, then he would sit down on the Vyasasan. So I remember one day I would always be standing near that door when Prabhupada would come, so because we'd be two lines of devotees, he'd walk between us up to Gaur-Nitai. So Prabhupada walked in the door and he stopped. And he put his head like this and he said, "What is in Krishna's eye?" And I've gone back and I've stood by that door. I can't even see that little Krishna has an eye, what to speak of what's in his eye. But Prabhupada immediately came to the door, he cocked his head, he said, "What is in Krishna's eye?" And even the pujaris ran to the altar. Even they were right in the altar, they couldn't see anything. Finally, someone saw a little speck of tilak had broken off and fallen into Krishna's eye. But Prabhupada, as soon as he walked in, "What is in Krishna's eye?" Another time, since we're in LA, we'll tell the nice LA stories. Another time, I always tried to be right near Prabhupada when he would take the Charnamrit. So Prabhupada came, he paid his obeisance to Gaur-Nitai, he took Charnamrit, and he looked up and I was standing right there. And Prabhupada looked straight at me and he said, "It is salt. It is salt." And I hadn't done anything, but I was standing there, so Prabhupada, I was the first person he saw. He made such a horrible face. "It is salt. It is salt." And he paid obeisance to Gaur-Nitai, to Radha Krishna, Jagannath, and he went back. Then he called out, "Who has made this Charnamrit with salt instead of sugar? Who is that person?" So there was one girl that I had made her a devotee in Boulder. And since Boulder was a small temple, everyone wanted to be in the big temple, because Prabhupada would come to LA or New York to all the big temples. So she came, somehow or other she came to LA. And her service was making the Charnamrit. So she was just a poor little bhaktin, and she came in and Prabhupada said, "You have no responsibility. You have no responsibility. If you cannot see, then you taste it. Why have you done this? Why have you done this?" And she's this poor little bhaktin, she was shaking like a leaf, And she said, "Krishna's mercy, Prabhupada." And Prabhupada said, "It is not Krishna's mercy, it is your stupidity." Woo! Then I never saw her again after this. And then one time Radhanath Swami was giving a class and he was talking about how fame or infamy follows you wherever you go. He said, just like in New Vrindavan, one girl came and she was the one who put the salt in the Charnamrit. And wherever she would go in New Vrindavan, "Oh, that's the one who put the salt." So I'm not going to tell any names. After class I said, "No, Maharaj, you have to tell me her name because I made her a devotee." So he told me her name was Suchitra. So I was so happy she left LA, went to New Vrindavan and became a devotee and got initiated and everything. So another time we were coming, because Prabhupada would always go first to LA and then to San Francisco for Rath Yatra, because in the old days Rath Yatra was only in San Francisco. So we all drove out to LA, and Prabhupada came in the morning, and that was the first time. That record had just come out, Govindam. So Prabhupada wanted that you play that at Darshanarti. I can't remember. I've racked my brain, but that's over 50 years ago. I can't remember what we did before. Darshanartik means Govinda prayers. Huh? So Prabhupada ordered that they play the Govinda prayers. So Prabhupada came in and he paid his obeisance, he went back, he sat down on the Vyasasana, and he was singing along with the tune. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Suddenly we saw tears were streaming down Prabhupada's face. And we wanted to peel up the floor and crawl underneath. Who are we to be in the presence of the pure devotee when he's experiencing symptoms of ecstasy? We felt so embarrassed. We wanted to pull up the floor and climb underneath, And then Prabhupada, he sniffed very loudly. I can't do it. It was just very loud sniff into the microphone. He rubbed his face like this. And then that time in history, he was teaching us the Isopanishad. So he just sniffed, collected himself, and he began to sing, Om Purnam Madaha Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Mudachate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. Even we used to sing it on Sankirtan, all the mantras. So, and Prabhupada, his voice was so deep and so wonderful, Isha Bhasham Idam Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagatyam Jagat. It was like, his voice was just like he was an old sea captain. And the way he was chanting, the melody went like that. Om Purnam Madaha Purnam Idam. So I could just feel Prabhupada was the captain of the ship going across this ocean of Kali. And he was the captain taking us across this ocean of Kali. It was so nice. So about that time, Prabhupada returned to India with all the devotees, with 100 devotees. And they were traveling around doing different programs. And you've probably seen those pictures in Surat, where the devotees their faces are practically disappearing under marigold garlands, and people have put saris between the buildings to shade the devotees. Such a reception Prabhupada got there, and the kirtan party got there. So I have one god sister, she told this story I guess it was the 30th anniversary of Bombay Temple. They brought some of the old devotees back. Her name was Kausalya. And that time she was just like 15, 16-year-old girl, American girl. And Prabhupada was teaching Isopanishad mantra at that time. So, and she was, 15, 16-year-old girl. She wanted some attention from Prabhupada. So she just sort of pranced up to Prabhupada and said, "Oh, Prabhupada, I know whole Isopanishad mantra by heart." And Prabhupada looked at her and said, "That's nice." She just wanted to get some attention from Prabhupada. So then after Surat, they went in the village. And in the city, there's bars, there's restaurants, movie theaters, so many distractions. But in the village, at evening time, there's nothing to go on. You just sit and listen to the grass grow, So foreign devotees, foreign Vaishnavas, we were Prabhupada's dancing white elephants. The foreign Vaishnavas, thousands of people came to see. There's nothing else to do, and this was very exciting. So there was 60,000 people sitting there in this Pandal program. And in the middle of the Pandal, middle of his lecture, Prabhupada says, "And I have got one lady disciple. She can sing whole Isopanishad mantras by heart." And Kausalya said, "Oh my God, why did I ever tell him?" And then he announced in Hindi, and he looked at Kausalya, and she said, "Oh no." And she got up on the stage, she looked out, 60,000 people there staring at her, And she shut her eyes and she sang the whole Isopanishads. And Prabhupada was so pleased, he called her over And just like a grandfather with a granddaughter, he pulled her over the side of the Vyasa-san, practically in his lap, and he was rubbing her on the back. That she had actually pulled it off. He was so happy. Yeah, all right. I could go on telling stories about... After Krishna, the most wonderful stories are about Prabhupada. Anyway, we'll put our voice to rest here. I guess we have more programs. We have Artik anyway, so... 128th Vas Puja ceremony of Srila Prabhupada ki jai! Srila Prabhupada ki jai! Srila Prabhupada ki jai!
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So I request our main sponsor, Shriman Subhash Chandra Prabhuji, to come and get blessings from His Grace Deen Bandhu Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So coming Thursday is Annada Ekadashi. Hare Krishna. Okay, come on. And 30th August is the fast breaking, 5:21 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. And today was last session by Prabhuji. Tomorrow evening Prabhuji is leaving. Hare Krishna. And now we will be moving to the temple hall for Prabhupada Arti and Pushpanjali. So others can just sit. Let Prabhuji go first. So Prabhuji will go. So let everyone sit here.